Welcome to the PaperStream Capture series. Today I'd like to do a tutorial on the new PaperStream Capture 4.0. Now, quick caveat, I don't intend to hit each and every feature in PaperStream Capture because there's quite a lot. However, I do hope to highlight all the major features that you're most likely to use. So with that said, let's get started. The user interface is a very clean design. Across the top, you'll have the menu items. You've got two tabs, the Scan and Index tab, which is the default tab we're seeing here, and the Batch Manager tab, which will keep track of any previous scans you have done, or if you've got any batches that have been suspended or are in error for some reason. You also have the notification bell, which will let you know if anything has popped up. You have the help files, which I will note are context sensitive, meaning they will show you the help for the screen that you're on, which is very handy. There are two methods for scanning in PaperStream Capture. You can use the configured profiles, or you can switch modes to ad hoc mode, which allows you to change the settings at scan time. You do that by clicking the Switch Modes button. If you have a lot of profiles, you have the ability to search for specific ones by typing them in the search field. You can also order your profiles based on the user definition, modification date, and job name. User definition is done by holding the Shift key down and then clicking and dragging a profile to the location that you want it. And finally, if you want to configure jobs, there's a Configure Job button over here. There are two ways to scan in PaperStream Capture. The first is to use pre-configured profiles, and the second is to do ad hoc scanning where you can change the settings on the fly. So to begin with, let's do the profile scanning. All you need to do is click on the profile that you wish to use to scan. Once your documents are scanned, you will have a new user interface with new buttons across the top. These are some minor editing features that you can do, like rotating a document around. You can delete pages, you can zoom in and out of pages as well. You can also change the view down here. Here we've got thumbnails on the left and the page view on the right. You can choose between two up on the page view. You can do just thumbnails, just pages, whichever you'd like. In the thumbnail view, I can do some other things, like if I right-click on a document, a menu will come up with a variety of options available to me. I can also reorder the documents by simply clicking and dragging them into a new location. If I need to add more pages to this batch, it'd be a simple process of choosing the document where I'd like to continue the scanning from, and then going to the Scan Add button, and the documents are added to the end of my batch. I have a number of other features that are available here in the drop-down. We use the Add feature here, but if I needed to replace a document because for some reason it was a poor quality image, I would choose the Replace. There's also an Assisted Add and an Add Scanner Driver Profile, so let's explain all of those. In the case of the Assisted Add, this you would use if I've got a particularly ugly document that I need to rescan but change the scanner setting profiles. For instance, this one. That's pretty ugly. What I can do, though, is use Assisted Add or Assisted Replace. I choose the Assisted Replace, and the Assisted Scan window opens up. So let's go ahead and rotate this page around, and let's zoom in so we can see it a little bit better. You can see the image quality is pretty poor, but over on the right-hand side, you are presented with the original image and 8 variations of settings. You also have 2 tabs across, the foreground and the background. Each of these handles the image data a little differently, so if I choose this tab, you can see I get a little bit different options as far as the image cleanup. Which one is the best for your document? Depends on your document. In this case, these look pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and select this one. That then becomes the current, and you get 8 more variations. I can just keep clicking around until I get an image that I like. I can check my background here. But if I've gone too far, if there was a better one before, I can simply hit the undo to go back a step or two. Or if I needed to, I could completely begin again by restore original. But once I found the image that I like, I just hit save. And that will replace that ugly image with a much better one. Now let's say I scanned this one in color, but it needed to be scanned in black and white instead. I can choose to rescan it using a different scanner profile. Here in the Replace or Add, when I click on it, I get a series of different driver settings. These are set in the PaperStream IP driver, which I'll show you a little bit later. By default, you will have a black and white color and auto color defaults, but you can create as many profiles as you need. In this case, I want to rescan this document in black and white. And there you go, rescan in black and white. Once I have all of my documents in, I have two options down here at the bottom. Three options, really. I can cancel this batch if I want to completely start over. I can suspend the batch. Let's do that for beginners. If I wanted to suspend the batch, maybe I need to scan this later, but I've got to go to lunch. I just hit suspend, tell it to submit. This batch will then be moved to the batch manager. You can see here, the batch manager now has a green icon letting you know that there's something in the batch manager. If I come here, I can see that batch and I can see that it's suspended. When I return from lunch, just double click on this batch and it will reload it and I can finish scanning this document. To finish scanning this document, all I need to do is hit the complete batch and it will be sent to its destination that is configured in the profile, or in the case of this one, I have it set to ask me to name the document and its location. So let's go ahead and rename this and send it on its way. While a document is being sent, you saw that it was in progress. If it was a particularly large one and was going to take a little bit to send, you still would be able to come over here and begin scanning the next batch because the send process happens in the background. Now for ad hoc scanning, where I need to change the settings on the fly, let's go ahead and switch modes over to the ad hoc mode. In the ad hoc mode, the first thing I need to do is make sure that my scanner is selected. You can see here it is. And the next thing I want to do is set my scanner settings. So starting here at the top, the output as a file during a scan. If I check this box, be aware that as soon as you're done scanning the batch, it will automatically release it to whatever location that you have sent here and to whatever naming scheme you have set up. So it's an immediate send. It will not give you the opportunity to add more pages to the document. If you want to stop before you send, to give you the opportunity to either add more documents, do some quality control, uncheck this box. As far as the destination, you can choose the browse and you can browse to a new location. The naming scheme by default is set to do automatic naming. Here under advanced settings, you will see all of your options that you have for doing auto naming. So in this case, every document is going to be named image 003. That's controlled in two ways. First off, the image part is a fixed text. Those are done by character strings down here. You can see image. So if I come down here and type in ad hoc, you can now see that the words ad hoc will be the beginning of every document that you create. The 0003 is done by a page counter. Page counter is controlled down here. It's will show a maximum of 4 digits. It's starting at 3. This number will continue to go up. So after I'm done scanning, this number, if I scan 10 more pages, the next one will start with 13. You can have it continue with each batch, or you can have it reset. There's a variety of options that you have here. You have other counters that you can use besides page counter. You can use a document counter, a sheet counter, or you can even add a time and date format to it. This is if, again, you wanted automatic naming. You can choose the file format you want to save it at. The files with the same name. If by chance you're sending to a folder that already has a document by this name, if you choose to save as, it will prompt you to give the new document a different name. You can also choose to just go ahead and overwrite the existing document. You can choose what scanner settings you want to use. Again, this list should seem familiar from you earlier, but you will have the default of black and white, color, and auto, and you do have the ability to create your own set of settings by choosing the scanner settings. This brings up the PaperStream IP Twain driver. Here is where all of the settings are available for the scanner. You can change these settings and then save them as a new profile set. It's outside the scope of this video to go through all of this. I'll do this for another video. Just know that anytime you make any changes in here, if you want to save them, you do need to hit the save, and you either save it as a new profile or overwrite an existing profile. If you want that window to appear before each scan so you can change those settings at scan time, check that box and the PaperStream IP driver will pop up for you. But once you're ready here, you click OK, and now you can go ahead and click Scan. Now this batch, because I told it to send immediately after being done, you will notice that I now have a document in here that I just scanned. If you think you're going to be changing the settings in between each individual batch, you can choose to configure before scan, and then this window will pop up before each scan. Without it, it will continue to use these settings until you get in here and change them. All right, remember when I told you that there were two ways that you can scan with PaperStream Capture? Well, I lied. It's the internet. Nobody ever lies on the internet. Everything on the internet is true. Well, there is actually a secret third way to scan, and that's using ad hoc mode in the PaperStream Capture profiles. To do that, you simply right-click on your profile and choose ad hoc. This will allow you to use all of the settings for this profile that you have set up, but you can make some minor changes, like instead of doing single-sided scanning, I could do double-sided scanning. Now, please note that these settings will not be saved on that profile, so these are just a one-time ad hoc scan using the profiles. So let's talk about how to create and configure these jobs like I have done here with this auto color profile. There are two ways to get into the configure jobs. That's via the menu, or you can do the configure jobs button. Once here, you're presented with a new user interface. Across the top, you've got some new buttons, the easy setup and the advanced setup. Both of these are wizards we'll talk about here a little bit later. You can edit a profile, clone a profile, or delete a profile. A quick note about cloning profiles and why that's important. There are two features in PaperStream Capture. One, where once you have created a profile, you can export those profiles to other PaperStream Capture installations. However, you can only export profiles that were created from scratch or were cloned. If you were to edit the default profiles, the black and white, color, the auto color, and the one-push scan, those would not be able to be exported. Additionally, there's a feature where you can assign a profile to a button on the scanner. So all you have to do is put paper in the scanner, press the button on the scanner, and it will automatically start scanning. It's called one-touch scanning. That also can only be done with profiles that were created from scratch or were cloned. A quick note on once you have a profile, you can right-click on a profile to get to the edit, clone, and delete menus as well. So let's talk about the first wizard, the easy setup wizard. You're presented with three options for wizards here. One for saving documents, one for sorting documents, where if you wanted to scan a batch of documents and have them split out into individual documents rather than one big batch, and then data extraction, where we want to capture data off of a page. So let's start with the Save Document wizard. We'll click the Start. And it's a simple process of following the steps. First one is make sure that your scanner is selected. If nothing is selected here, hit the drop down arrow and choose your scanner. Next, choose your scanner settings. You can choose between color mode, where you have black and white, grayscale color, and auto color as an option. You can choose your DPI resolution. You can choose your paper size. A quick note here, you should always set the paper size to the largest page size that you will ever possibly scan. And the reason being is, if I was to set this to letter size, but then scan a legal size document, it would end up cutting off the bottom 3 inches of the document because it's expecting all of the pages to only be 11 inches long. So always set it to the longest size. The scan maximum or auto size are perfect selections for that. You can choose between single-sided and double-sided. You can turn on or off the rotation. Automatic rotation is on by default. That looks for text on the page and then will rotate the text right side up. But you can turn it off or set it to a specified rotation if you like. Blank page deletion is also on by default. You can disable that. And multi-feed detection is on, but you can disable that as well if you need to. Once you hit the next button to go to the next step, here you'll choose where do you want to send it. By far, the most common one is to send it to a folder, but as you can see, there are quite a few destination options available to you, from SharePoint, SharePoint Online, FTP, emails, printers, Google Drive, OneDrive. So lots of destinations that you can send to. A note here, when you choose one that requires setup, the setup configuration will appear below it. Network folder would be if you need to add authentication to access a particular folder. SharePoint gives you the opportunity to put in the site URL, username, passwords, etc. Same thing for FTP, Dropbox, etc. We're just going to choose a folder for simplicity here. Click Next to go to the next step. On the File Property screen, we're going to be able to tell it where we want to send the documents and what do we want to name the documents. The first section is the folder. This is the folder we're going to be sending to, or destination. Anything in blue is a variable. Anything that is black is a fixed string. So in this case, whoever is logged in, it will go to their profile to a folder called Documents. Now you can change this or add anything that you would like to it, so these fixed strings are editable by you. You can also browse to your own location by going to the Browse button, or you can choose from several other variables. Here you can do date and timestamps as well. The next section is what you want to name the document. Again, fixed strings are in black, so if we want to change the name of this, we can enter in anything that we want. Anything in blue is a variable. Document counters are used to make sure that you have a unique name where we're sending the document to. There's a couple of other options besides document counter. You can use date and timestamps, which are very common. You can also do page counters and sheet counters. Then the final step here is what file format do you want to send it as. Hit the drop down, you can see you have a variety of file formats that you can use. If you're still worried about the naming of the name of the document not being unique, you can check this box and it will overwrite the existing file with whatever you're currently releasing. Otherwise, what will happen is if there is a duplicate name, it's going to pop up a little window and ask you if you want to rename the document that you're releasing. Now finally, if you don't want to do automated naming, in other words, you may need to name each document something separate, you can check the specify a name for the file when it's output. Now, when you hit the complete batch, it's going to pop up a window and ask you what do you want to name the document and where do you want to send it. The defaults will be whatever you have set here, but you'll be able to change either one of those. We click Next to go to the next step. On this, we're just going to give our profile a name. We're going to choose an icon, and you can see I can click on this and it changes your icon. And you can upload your own custom icons as well using the Add button. But once you think you have everything the way that you like, you just simply hit the test scan button, and everything looks okay. Go ahead and hit the complete scan, and it would send it to the destination that we had configured here in File Property. So the final step is to go ahead and close this, and you'll notice we now have a new profile or job created. Next up is the easy setup for sorting documents. In this scenario, you have a batch of documents. Let's say you had 10 documents you wanted to scan all at once, but you want the end result to be 10 individual files. For that, we're going to need to split up those documents, and there's a variety of ways we can do that. So let's get into that. So we're going to go quickly through some of the screens that we've already seen, but I would like to add something that I missed in the first section, and that's about paper size and the auto paper size feature. This will actually auto crop the documents down to their actual size. So this is an excellent setting, or it doesn't matter what size paper. You can have a mixed batch of business card all the way up to 8.5 by 20 feet long, and it will crop it to whatever the document's actual size. So with that said, let's go ahead and click Next. You have 5 options for doing document separation. You can either separate via a barcode to signal the beginning of a document, a blank page, a specific number of pages. You can do a zone OCR. OCR stands for optical character recognition, and it just means where it's going to read text on the page. And patch codes, which look a little bit like a barcode, but it's an old school method of doing paper separation, and it's an industry standard, so you can find patch codes anywhere. For our purposes, we're going to use the barcode. You can see here what we're going to be looking for is a barcode to signal the beginning of a new document. So for barcode separation, you can either use a barcode that's on the document itself to signal the beginning of a page, or you could use a dedicated separation page like these to signal the beginning of a document. You click Next to get to condition settings. Here you can choose to delete the pages used as separators. So if you have a dedicated separation page, like I mentioned earlier, that you don't want to end up in the final document, you would check this. I'm going to leave it unchecked just so we can see the results. I'm going to choose your destination. You're going to choose where you want to send it to, your file folder name, your document type, etc., and then give it a name. Now you can see we have a sort profile, so let's go ahead and run that. Now, as you can see, it's found these barcodes on this page, and this signifies a separator. So this is the beginning of a new document. It found this separator and then created a new document. The final wizard we have to cover is the Advanced Setup wizard. The Advanced Setup gives us access to all of the features of creating a job in PaperStream Capture. Now we're going to start out with the job information, but here's where we're going to give the profile a name. You can enter a job description here as well, and anything you type in will appear at the bottom of the icon here, giving you a little more space for text for your symbol. Again, you can choose a icon, and you can upload your own using the Add button. You do have the ability to show a profile, or you can hide it from everybody. You can also show it to select users using Active Directory here as well. The batch information section you're seeing here, this is related to PaperStream Capture Pro and is outside the scope of this particular video. Then we can go to step 2, and here you can select your scanner again, you can select your scanner settings, but now you have access to all of the scanner settings using the Advanced Settings button. This will launch the PaperStream IP driver, and as you can see, there's quite a few more settings available to you in the driver. Now, we aren't going to cover these. This is outside the scope of this particular video. I'll try to make another one covering all of this at a later time. But just know that if you make any changes to the profile, what you'll want to do in order is save them, and you'll save them either as a new profile or you can overwrite an existing profile. Once you have done that, you will have the ability to select that profile from this drop-down list. The defaults that you will see are black and white default, color, and the auto color. But as you can see, you can create as many sets of settings as you need in order to get the job done. Here in the image display options, the show image during a scan will show you all of the thumbnails as you're scanning each document. If you turn this off, you won't see the thumbnails and the page until the last page has completed and gone through the scanner. The release after scan, if you choose that, this will, as soon as the last page finishes through the scanner, it will automatically release the document to its destination, wherever that might be. So if you don't need to do any quality control on the document, you can choose release after scan if you like. You can minimize the app during scan, so you can do other things while the scanner is scanning. And the Enable Separate QC is a mode that's only available for the PaperStream Capture Pro version. The step 3 would normally be where you would go, but I'm actually going to skip it and come back. You'll see why in just a little bit. I'd like to go straight to the data extraction. Here, we can go ahead and add a field. Let's say we want to add a zone OCR field. We can also do the barcode and the passports again. We're going to do a zone OCR. We're going to define an area. I'm going to capture this account number, and we will call this account number. With the easy setup, you could only do one zone OCR or one barcode. In the advanced, I can create up to 20. I can capture up to 20 fields. So let's go ahead and add now a barcode. So I could capture a barcode. Go ahead and name it. Now here with the barcode, I can either auto detect, which means it's going to look over the entire page for a barcode, and when it finds it, capture that information. You have to be careful with that. If any of your documents might have barcodes that you're not looking to capture, you're going to find them because we're looking over the entire page. If you want to specify a specific area to look for the barcode, thus reducing the chances of a false capture, choose the specify area and do the define area. Scan in your sample document, and I'm going to click draw zone here and draw a box around my barcode that I want to capture. And that way it'll only look in this specific spot for a barcode. I can have, as I mentioned, up to 20 fields, combinations of the zone OCR barcode and the passports. We'll also mention that in the Pro mode, you have this on steroids. Now, not only do you have those, you now have also the ability to create a manual entry field. You can do a system settings. You can create choice lists. You can do database lookups here. You can apply character masks to fields to make sure that the data conforms to specific forms. Think like a social security number. It's got to be 3 digits, hyphen 2 digits, hyphen 4 digits, and anything else would be considered incorrect. But that's only in PaperStream Capture Pro. But once I've got those set up, let's go ahead and take a look at separation. This should be fairly familiar to you. The barcode, separation, blank page, page count, zone OCR, patch code, but you also now have the ability to press the control key to do a separation manually in that sense. Okay, so now that we've got these two options covered, let's go back to step 3, destination. This again should look a little familiar. Here are all of our destinations that we might choose from. If we wanted to worry about if a document had a duplicate name. We can overwrite any existing documents with the one we're releasing. You can specify a name for the file when it's output if you don't want to use the automated naming. You can select your file format here. You can see, again, quite a few available for you. Your folder destinations are here. Your file naming is here. Again, now we're doing automated naming. And anything that is in black is a fixed string. Anything in blue or orange will be a variable. But with the advanced setup, you have quite a few more options available to you. Now you have also the job name you can include in the path, the username, the user profile, station name, some environmental variables, the date and timestamps, which we saw earlier. But you can do the document separator value. But here's the key here, the extracted data. I can now use that account number or barcode as part of my folder string, my folder path. The same is going to be true on the file. Anything in black is a fixed string and will appear on the name of all the documents. Anything in blue or in orange is a variable, and we have a lot of options available here for that, including the extracted data. Let's say we wanted to use the account number as part of the name of the document. I'll also point out you can do a modified version of automated naming and manual naming. So instead of doing just manual naming or just auto naming, I can include the optional character string. What will happen is at the end of the scan, when you release, it's going to ask you, what do you want to name the document? All of this automated stuff will appear as part of the name, but will ask you to enter manually some characters, anything that you want, here where this optional character string is. So that gets you a way to do the best of both worlds, get a little bit of automation to your naming, and the ability to add your own naming at scan time. If you need to output any of this information that you've captured to an index file, that would be done here. You can do, again, text file, XML, or CSV files. Once you get these 3 steps completed, though, plus any optional ones, all you've got to do is click Save, Close, and now we have an advanced setup profile that we've created. I will note that any of your easy setup profiles that you have used, if you ever need any of the advanced features added to these, simply highlight the one that you need to upgrade and choose Switch to Advanced Setup, and now you'll have access to all the features again. A little bit about cloning. Cloning is really handy if I have a profile that is 90% of what I need. In other words, I want to do this data extraction, but I need to change the destination for a particular set of documents. I can right-click on that, clone this profile, and then change just that destination. So it's an easy way to make a new profile without having to recreate the wheel. To the final section of this tutorial, administration. To get into the administration tool, you go to the menu and the administrator tool. Down the left-hand side are all of your options for the administrator tool. We're going to start on the general tab. If you want to get really fancy, you can add your own logo by browsing out to an image of your own. Let's talk about the display, the sample jobs, the 4 jobs that were there when you first installed. Once you get all of your own created, you might want to hide those so you don't confuse the operators, and you simply do that by unchecking the display sample jobs. If you happen to accidentally have deleted those sample jobs, you can recreate those by pressing the Reset Sample Job button. You can also password protect those profiles. That'll keep people from being able to change those profiles, which is kind of a handy thing. And then this checkbox, somewhat important, resides in the taskbar after exiting. What that means is when you close PaperStream Capture, it doesn't actually completely close. It's still going to be running in the system tray. That can be important if you're trying to do an update where you need to close PaperStream Capture completely. You'll need to go to the system tray to close it. That'll also occur when you're doing an export of the profiles. PaperStream Capture has to be completely closed. If you don't want that behavior to occur, just uncheck the resides in the taskbar. But if you leave it checked, that means that PaperStream Capture will launch quicker. It doesn't happen very often, but if you do need to change where the working files are kept, meaning the scanned images as you're scanning, you can do that down here in the work folder. Usability is a really handy tool for setting up one-touch scanning. And by that, I mean you can assign, for instance, to the scan button, a profile. You can also assign function buttons. On your scanner, you will be able to press an up and down arrow on most of these scanners to go to the various function buttons and then assign those to profiles as well, should you need. And again, a quick point, the default profiles cannot be assigned to these one-touch buttons. If you are a kind of person who uses hotkeys, you'll see what all the hotkeys are listed here. You can even create your own custom hotkeys here as well. Output, by default, we use JPEG compression, but if for some reason you needed to switch it back to the old JPEG compression 6, you can do that as here. You can also choose from a variety of PDF versions if you really needed to. Now, the settings for the Abby Fine Reader for ScanSnap. This is a free downloadable add-on for PaperStream Capture that I do highly recommend. And here you have some settings for how it behaves when it's creating Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and searchable PDFs. So, activation would be when you need to activate the PaperStream Capture Pro. That will be done here. You can also renew licenses here. You can buy licenses, or you can contact your reseller. We'll be able to get you licenses for PaperStream Capture Pro. Station is only used if you're running PaperStream Capture Pro. That's where you can split out the scanning, the QC, and the indexing functions to different people and different PCs. Update, if you don't want, as an administrator, PaperStream Capture checking for updates, you can check this radio button here. Do not check automatically. And then finally, the support option. This will give you some URLs where you can find help for PaperStream Capture. And I wouldn't recommend getting in here and changing these except at the direction of technical support. But this is the administrator tool. Once you have changed your settings, go ahead and hit save and close, and those will save for you. Now, I mentioned that you can export profiles, and that's done here with the exporter. If you go to the PaperStream Capture folder, you have the exporter and the importer tool. Click on the exporter. Here you're given the option to select which profiles you want to export, and then once you do, it will create a .pav file that works like a compressed file, but just give it a name and select where you want to save it, and it creates that file for you. The other half of this process is the importer tool. The importer tool, obviously you're going to browse out to that .dpav file that you've created to import, but you have two options here, replace all and add. Replace all is literally going to do that. If you have any user-created profiles on the target computer, those will be replaced with whatever's in this .dpav file. Add will simply add them onto the end of the list. We'll also point out this import driver profiles is kind of important when you're doing the replace all. If you have created any PaperStream IP, Twain, or ISIS profiles that are associated with the PaperStream Capture profiles, you'll want to check this box so those are moved over with them. If you use the Add feature, they're just automatically transferred over with them. So when you're ready, just click the Run and they will import onto the new machine. That concludes our PaperStream Capture tutorial. I hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and have a great day. Thank you.